When you use the Permaweb, it looks just like the normal web, but really the dynamics between you and the developer are very different. Once you have the transaction ID that has served you an application, you are able to access that application in that unmodified state indefinitely. And what this means is if you find a blogging application, for example, like Scribe, built by one of our community members, you will always be able to get back to that application in that state and allow users to view your blog posts. On the centralized web, what typically happens is applications are built to a certain standard, and then when monetization is required, the level of service rendered to the user slowly declines. That's impossible on the Permaweb. This means that the developer can no longer change the application to sell your data, for example, or add adverts after the fact. They have to update the application in ways that you, the user, accept.
So we have a situation where these really popular platforms that are ingrained in our day-to-day life are changing, and they're doing things that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the actual users. So when we talk about consumer integrity, what we mean is that as a consumer, you can use an application on Arweave. Everything that's deployed is immutable. When I publish an application as a developer, my code is committed to the network, it runs across the network, and I benefit from all of these servers running my code. It does also mean that I can't go in later and just change it.
This is just like what happens in a blockchain network. If the core Arweave team suggests a change to the Arweave protocol, it's up to the miners to decide whether to accept it or not. If they think it's a degradation of the quality of the network, they'll simply ignore our update and they'll continue to run the old one and it'll work fine. That's exactly what happens with Permaweb apps. If the author of Scribe tried to add adverts at this point, then they would have to add other features that offsetted that negative quality of the application with positive qualities. And this is a sort of negotiation that happens naturally in the network between consumers and developers. Consumer integrity leads to very different outcomes. If there's a version of Facebook, for example, that is very private, it's really just about sharing small pieces of information with your friends. And then it starts to be upgraded over time by the developer to be more about news coverage. If that application is open source and it's on the Permaweb, then people can just fork that application. This is a very common thing in the open source world, but it's really something that's completely impossible in the normal centralized web. This leads to higher quality, better outcomes of the consumers of the systems.